Okay, moving on to the next team in the SEC that we will be going over today, and this is one of my favorite coaches in all of college basketball to talk about with you guys, and that is Eric Musselman and his Arkansas Razorbacks. And I feel like Eric Musselman is one of these coaches where if you're a college basketball fan and you don't know about this guy, I feel like you need to open your eyes because Eric Musselman has been at Arkansas for about a year and a half, and I do think the impact he's made on this program already is monumental. And I feel like a lot of Arkansas fans and people around the college basketball media were a little confused when Arkansas a couple years ago decided to let Mike Anderson go. And Anderson was a coach who consistently was winning games at Arkansas, but I feel like he was never going to be the guy who would elevate Arkansas to that next step that they wanted to get to as a legitimate contender in the SEC. And I do think this year and for the future, Eric Musselman is the coach that could maybe provide you with that. And Arkansas is another team in the SEC that does lose a lot from last year's squad that was already thin to begin with. That includes Mason Jones, who was in the conversation to be the SEC Player of the Year. I think his story and what he was able to do last year was phenomenal. Not a lot of people even expected him to be the featured go-to guy for the Arkansas Razorbacks last year, and what he was able to do in so many games, just being able to put his team on his back was phenomenal. They also lose Isaiah Joe, who was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA draft, Jimmy Witt, who is their starting point guard, Adriel Bailey, who started at one of the wing positions as well. They lose Jalen Harris and Gentel Sela and Reggie Chaney. So Arkansas, there is no doubt, does lose a lot of contributors from last year's squad, but there are a lot of newcomers, including transfers, and you guys know Eric Musselman and his philosophy on transfers. Dating back to his Nevada days, he treats his transfers like an NBA free agent big board, and he then goes to get guys which fit his team's needs. And he was able to do that so far during the whole offseason by bringing in guys like Jalen Tate from Northern Kentucky. Right now, I have him projected as the starting point guard for Arkansas. Justin Smith, he's going to be a guy who could help them rebound and block shots and will really be good at that stretch floor position. They also bring in J.D. Note, the transfer from Jacksonville. He could score. Vance Williams from New Mexico. He's another guy I think is going to play some big-time minutes, and there's a possibility that he could lead the Arkansas Razorbacks in scoring. They also will be bringing back Connor Vanover, who sat out last year, the Cal transfer. I think when he was last played at Cal, he showed his potential, and he's a guy that has really good size and could shoot. And by the way, that's something really Arkansas last year was not able to do at all, both shoot and rebound. And I say it all the time. I watched a lot of Arkansas last year, and they reminded me of Eric Musselman's Nevada team 2 years ago that beat Texas, had the crazy comeback against Cincinnati, and basically the reason why I say that is this. If you remember, that Nevada team, and this is historically a trait of all teams that have been coached by Eric Musselman over the last couple years, they would only play like 5 to 6 guys, and Lindsey Drew, who was their starting point guard, got hurt midway through the season, and Eric Musselman really had to change his philosophy as the head basketball coach. And I feel like that Nevada team did two things. One, they never turned the ball over, and two, they were just playing a very small, undersized lineup just because they didn't have the depth. If you remember, the following year, Nevada was able to add more size and play a much more balanced of a starting five. And I feel like Arkansas this year really is going to be doing the same thing. Eric Musselman has so many different options who he could play, which is interesting to me because, once again, historically, Muss has not been a guy that's played 5 guys off the bench during one game. So I'm curious to see who makes this rotation and who doesn't. Now, the 2 X factors for Arkansas, I think, are the 2 freshmen they're bringing in. Moses Moody, the 6'6 freshman wing, and KK Robinson, the 6-foot freshman point guard. And both of these guys, I think, there is a possibility that they could have a legitimate shot to succeed right away and play right away on this Arkansas Razorback team. And both of those guys, along with Jalen Williams and Devontae Davis, are 4-star recruits with potential to earn playing time this year, and I think once again develop into really good players. Moses Moody, he's a former top 50 guard out of Montverde, and I think he's going to be a guy who could fight for minutes in the starting lineup and could help Arkansas form a nice perimeter with Jalen Tate, and if you want to throw KK Robinson in there, or if you want to throw Moses Moody or Desi Sills, who's going to start right away. He's the other returning scorer for this Arkansas Razorback squad. I think he's going to be another guy in this backcourt who is going to have a big-time impact for this Razorback team. But going back to Moses Moody, I like him because he's a jack-of-all-trades kind of guy. He's able to contribute in scoring, rebounding, defense, ball handling, and he plays very in control and has a lot of poise that really you don't see often from college freshmen. And then you look at KK Robinson, top 60 point guard from Oak Hill, and he's a tough, quick lefty, could really shoot the ball, and I could see him being a guy who runs this Arkansas offense in year one, especially when you consider what the point guard situation is right now. I like the kid Jalen Tate, but he's going to be coming up from the Horizon League and his Western Kentucky days. I'm going to be curious to see if he has any trouble adjusting to the SEC at all. And when you look at Arkansas, there's a lot to like about this squad this season. I don't think anyone is denying that. Which, when you look at the roster, there's so many different guys. And once again, the number one key for me to this Arkansas team, and it's going to be something that Eric Musselman has to figure out, is who exactly is going to contribute at the top of the scoring bunch, and who exactly is going to be the one who rallies the team together and gets a role. And then I feel like once the puzzle pieces start fitting together, and once I get a little bit more of a clearer idea about what exactly Muss is trying to build as this team's identity, then with Arkansas, I'll give you guys a little bit of a more definitive feeling on them, because I think this Arkansas team is going to be really good. I'm just not exactly sure which players are going to be the one that really step up and puts them over the top. When I look at this Arkansas roster right now, I see 7 or 8 different guys that I could see having legitimate impact in scoring, and other guys that I could see have legitimate impact in defense and rebounding. And once again, I believe the key that Eric Musselman is really going to have to focus on is, okay, who is the starting point guard going to be? That's number one. I think Robinson, once again, is good enough to be that guy. And then Desi Sills, who's going to pair along with him in the backcourt as a consistent scorer. Will it be Moses Moody? And then what exactly do you do with the front court? You have options to play small with Justin Smith and Vance Jackson. You could play, I think, a lineup with them both at the 4-5, and then you're going to have Connor Vanover, who will play a lot. J.D. Note is a guy that could score if Arkansas ever has trouble getting the offense going, and then you have Sills in the mix. You have Jalen Williams in the mix as well. So once again, I'm just curious to see how exactly Eric Musselman gets this all going. And chemistry is obviously the number one concern with the amount of different options that this Arkansas team has. But at the same time, I do trust Muss and his ability as a coach to get the job done. What he's done to so many guys that have gotten drafted in the NBA over the last couple of years, like the 2 Martin twins, like Jalen Harris getting drafted, that was all Muss, and he deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done since he's returned to coaching college basketball.